invisible rule that quietly controls every fortune. Imagine waking up tomorrow. Your salary hasn't changed. Your bank account hasn't magically doubled. No lottery ticket wins. No wealthy relative leaves you an inheritance. Nothing outside your life is different. Yet somehow, from that single day forward, money never controls you again. Bills no longer create panic. Unexpected expenses no longer feel like disasters. Your future slowly becomes richer without earning another dollar. Impossible? That's exactly what millions of people believe, because almost everyone has been taught the wrong question. People ask, how can I make more money? But history whispers a different question. How can you keep the money you already earn? That tiny difference has separated the wealthy from everyone else for thousands of years. Not because rich people know magical investment secrets, not because they were born lucky, but because they quietly follow one invisible rule. A rule so simple, most people ignore it until it's too late. Here's the strange part. This rule has appeared everywhere. In ancient kingdoms, in modern billion-dollar companies, in families that quietly built wealth over generations, even in nature itself. Different cultures gave it different names. Economists created complicated theories around it. Psychologists studied its effects for decades. But at its heart, it remains astonishingly simple. And once you see it, you'll begin noticing it everywhere. Every millionaire, every successful business, every civilization that survived economic collapse, all unknowingly obeyed the same hidden principle. But the real mystery isn't why it works. The real mystery is why almost nobody teaches it. Because if everyone understood this one idea, entire industries would lose billions, impulse buying would collapse, consumer debt would shrink, advertising would become far less powerful. The system quietly depends on people never discovering this rule, and that's where our story begins. Not in a bank, not on Wall Street, not inside a billionaire's mansion, but thousands of years ago, in one of humanity's oldest civilizations, where a simple clay tablet carried wisdom that still defeats modern financial anxiety. What happened there? Changed everything. Long before smartphones, before credit cards, before stock markets, there stood the magnificent city of Babylon. Towering walls stretched toward the desert sky. Merchants crossed endless sands carrying gold, spices, silk, and precious stones. The markets overflowed with opportunity. Some people became unimaginably wealthy, others worked just as hard, yet remained poor their entire lives. The difference puzzled everyone. How could two merchants earn nearly the same income? Yet one built enormous wealth, while the other stayed trapped in endless struggle. At first, people blamed luck, then inheritance, then intelligence, but none of those explanations held up, because again and again, ordinary people quietly escape poverty, not overnight, not through miracles, but through one consistent habit. The wealthy protected something invisible, not gold, not land, not businesses. They protected the gap, the tiny space between earning and spending. That gap determined everything. One merchant expanded it, another erased it. One future grew larger every year, the other's future disappeared, one purchase at a time. Here's the strange part. The gap was often incredibly small, sometimes just a handful of coins. Yet year after year, those tiny differences became houses, businesses, generational wealth, freedom. Meanwhile, people earning even more money, often finished with nothing. The problem wasn't income, it never was. It was what happened in the few moments after getting paid. That tiny window quietly decided decades of financial destiny. But then, human psychology entered the story and everything became far more dangerous. Imagine receiving your paycheck. For one brief moment, you feel rich. Possibilities explode inside your mind. A better phone, a vacation, new clothes, a nicer apartment, a new car. Your brain begins spending money before you've even touched it. Psychologists call this mental accounting. Your imagination starts assigning dollars long before reality does. It feels harmless. It isn't, because your brain evolved for survival, not financial independence. Thousands of years ago, saving extra food made little sense. Winter could arrive tomorrow, predators could attack, disease could spread. Immediate rewards often meant survival. Modern life changed. Our brains didn't. Today, the predator isn't a tiger, it's temptation. Advertisements, flash sales, one-click shopping, social media influencers. Buy now, pay later, limited offer. Only 3 left. Every message attacks the exact weakness evolution left inside us. Here's what makes it terrifying. Most purchases don't happen logically, they happen emotionally. Researchers discovered something remarkable. When people buy impulsively, the emotional centers of the brain become highly active. Meanwhile, the areas responsible for long-term planning grow quieter. In simple terms, emotion takes the steering wheel. Logic moves into the passenger seat. Sometimes it doesn't even get inside the car. But the real mystery was only beginning. Because companies learned something extraordinary. They discovered people don't buy products. They buy identities. You don't purchase shoes. You purchase confidence. You don't buy a watch. You buy status. You don't buy coffee. You buy comfort. You don't buy a luxury car. You buy a story about yourself. Once marketers understood this, advertising transformed forever. Products became symbols. Prices became emotional. Consumption became identity. Without realizing it, people stopped asking, "Can I afford this?" Instead, they asked, "What kind of person does this make me?" That single shift quietly emptied billions of wallets. Centuries later, another observer noticed something fascinating. Not in Babylon, not in Rome, but inside ordinary homes. Families earning modest incomes, sometimes retired comfortably, others earning twice as much, lived paycheck to paycheck forever. How? The answer shocked economists. Income explained surprisingly little. Behavior explained almost everything. Two neighbors, same salary, same city, same opportunities. One automatically saved first, the other automatically spent first. 10 years later, their lives looked completely different. 20 years later, they seemed to belong to different worlds. 30 years later, one worried about every emergency. The other welcomed retirement with quiet confidence. The difference wasn't intelligence. It wasn't education. It wasn't luck. It was sequence. Who got paid first? The stores or themselves? At first, that sounds almost too simple. But simplicity often hides enormous power. Nature works this way too. A tiny seed becomes an enormous oak. One snowflake begins an avalanche. A single degree changes water into steam. Small rules create massive outcomes. Money follows the same law, except almost nobody notices while it's happening because financial collapse rarely arrives dramatically. It comes silently. One subscription, one unnecessary upgrade, one emotional purchase, one monthly payment, one forgotten renewal, one convenience fee, one impulsive decision. Each seems harmless. Together, they quietly steal decades. But then, someone asked a dangerous question. What if wealth wasn't built by making extraordinary decisions? What if it was built by avoiding ordinary mistakes? That question changed financial history, and its answer would become known as the secret money management rule. But before anyone named it, one famous experiment revealed why following this rule feels almost impossible. And once scientists watched children struggle with a single marshmallow, they accidentally uncovered one of the greatest financial lessons ever discovered.